rather than in response to a question. I have not heard any other leader in the Caribbean who has come out and said the same thing. I will contend that Dr. Joe did not have to say this at all. I don't see any reason why he had to point this out, with the one exception that I think Dr. Joe was dunking on the people of Haiti. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead. Mm-mm. Right on here. You change up something on.
These CARICOM nationals, they are without violent or sexual criminal backgrounds.
Uh, 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 I would say criminality is violence. I don't know how you are going to sexually assault somebody and that does not constitute violence. But I would also agree. I do feel like this is important that these persons are not allowed to seek refuge in St. Christopher and Nevis. So all of that seems reasonable to me. I agree with Dr. Joe with that aspect.
I think there might be different discussions with other jurisdiction, but in St. Kitts and Nevis, the CARICOM nationals, excluding Haiti at this time for obvious security matters.
I want to pass that again. Although Dr. Drew is saying that it is for obvious security matters, it is not obvious to me why a Haitian would be more dangerous than any other CARICOM national. I understand and I would fully acknowledge that the conditions and the situation in Haiti is unstable at this time. But I would like to hear more, and I am disappointed in the reporters who did not pin down and continue to ask, well, you said that it is obvious security issues. Why is a Haitian national any more dangerous or likely to cause more instability than any other nationality? And by the way, I hope you notice I'm not calling any other nationalities. There are other nationalities that other people would have a problem with. If you have a strong enough imagination, you could see. But I would like to know, in general, why is it obviously a security matter to have Haitians in the country? I don't know what this is that they are doing that would be so dangerous.
And thirdly, these persons cannot be violent or sexual criminals, and it has to be agreed to between our partner, the United States of America, and St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay, so that is the first one. Not the first one. No, well, that was actually the second one. But anyway,
From the onset, I want to speak to the matter of third party nationals, because I see that it has been asked about. And I will read something very quickly. And I want us to understand that St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, was approached by the United States of America as the other CARICOM countries. And we took a very proactive approach in sitting with the Americans to reach an arrangement that I think that arrangement is in keeping with our principles and, of course, having the collaboration with the United States of America as well. I know we are intelligent people. I know we have been looking very closely, and I know our people understand that the geopolitical environment at this time is not what we have been accustomed to. We know that there have been shifts, and so being proactive is very important. And I want to thank our people, of course, for.
I would add that not only have there been shifts in geopolitics, we are never, I don't think that we're going back. I think that this is where a lot of people have not been giving Donald Trump credit for being honest and for doing out loud what a lot of Americans have been thinking for a long time, and that is to put America first. I feel like people are thinking that over, like, a lot of people want to think that they're going to wait out these couple of years and that the system is going to go back. I feel like Donald Trump is ushering in a new system. And even if Democrats get back in, this is the game now. So it is more likely that you have to adjust to a new system rather than thinking that there's going to be any rolling back of what is currently taking place.
Been involved in this. So St. Kitts and Nevis has negotiated and entered into a memorandum of understanding with the United States of America for the potential transfer of certain third country nationals. And I want us to listen carefully, who are citizens or nationals of the Caribbean community. This does not involve anybody outside of CARICOM. And this is in keeping with our CARICOM principle. And I will further say that because of security matters, it does not include Haiti at this particular time.
It is absolutely malpractice that none of you journalists were asking what is the security issue related to Haiti. Why is a Haitian any more dangerous than any other CARICOM national at this point? What is it that makes, what stigma are we attaching to Haiti, who is a member of CARICOM? And we attaching those stigmas to the nationals of Haiti. Why is that stigma being attached to Haiti? Why is it automatic and so blatant that all of us could know that having Haitians in your community is a risk? We need to understand that aspect. I heard questions from the journalists regarding what benefits we would get. I heard actually some xenophobic aspects. One of the reporters said, well, how long they're going to be here? Until they're gone. All right. Anyway, back to Joe.
It does not involve anybody from any other place outside of the CARICOM region. Under the arrangement, the United States may propose transfers of CARICOM nationals. This is what St. Kitts and Nevis has negotiated, without violent or sexual criminal backgrounds. And St. Kitts and Nevis may accept them. We are not obliged according to the MOU. The MOU contemplates jointly develop operational procedures, including capacity-based limits and logistical arrangements. So in St. Kitts and Nevis's negotiations, through our proactive diplomacy, this only contemplates CARICOM citizens.
No. As again, I will repeat, my point of contention is this. If he had said we had agreed to take only CARICOM nationals, and he had put on the other qualifiers of saying that they can't be violent criminals, I do not think that anybody would have an issue. The fact that Haiti was singled out must be asked, why is it we are singling out Haiti for that type of stigma? That's all I'm saying. Furthermore, I would say, from a purely political standpoint, if he did not mention anything about Haiti, do you guys think that anybody would know that Haitians had been excluded and therefore wouldn't have been protected? This is why I am saying I have not heard any other officials from any other territory come out and say that Haiti is excluded. As a matter of fact, I hear the exact opposite has been stated in Dominica. And so it just leaves me to wonder, why aren't the Haitians a security risk for the Dominicans? Oh yeah, and well, I mean, we're gonna get to that shortly. And by the way, I hope you understand that I am not picking on Dr. Joe. I would have defended him last week when I told you guys that people came at him and said that as the chairman, the statement was too weak. However, when you look at the UN Security Council meeting, as I told you guys, none of the big nations were able to come out and call out America and say that they had infringed international law. They merely said that they believe in international law. It's like, picture somebody who you get robbed, and instead of coming out and say that they get robbed, you say, I believe in the law of theft. I believe in the law of offenses against the person. You can't say that they get robbed. You only could say you believe in the law. And my point of contention there was, St. Kitts and Nevis does not have anything, no kind of backing, does not have the capacity to come out against the United States. CARICOM does not have the backing or the capacity to come out against the United States. If we come down to CELAC now, which is the Community of Latin American and Caribbean countries, no, you have the ability to make that type of statement. If further now you invite Canada to the meeting, no, you have the ability to say something about what took place. But the 40 million people that comprise the Caribbean, who basically is like 10% of the United States, have no capacity to come out against the United States of America. And so it was responsible. I went through videos with you of the Jamaicans doing the same thing, and the former Jamaican Prime Minister saying that is absolutely the right thing to do. Self-preservation is the key at that particular moment in time. So I didn't have any issue with that. This, however, is a different circumstance. And this involves being able to say the right thing. I remember some years ago, Dr. Drew spoke about how Taiwan was independent. He said something about Taiwan that he should not have said. And I picked it up and I told you guys about it. And from since then, he has not made that mistake regarding Taiwan. Taiwan, you cannot say, if you say that Taiwan is an independent country, you're putting Taiwan's security at risk. And to show you the same principle in action, not even America could say Taiwan is an independent country. Taiwan is part of China. It's only got one China. And Taiwan is definitely part of it. That's why you have to say the Republic of China in Taiwan. You can't just say Taiwan. Particularly, I could say so. You could say so. We're only citizens. But the prime minister of the country cannot make that mistake. Otherwise, he put Taiwan national security into threat. Is a major issue. The next video I want to play is from the lawyer in New York who everybody has been offended by. I see up to today that there are letters. I don't name tag the woman, but anyway, there was some kind of letter saying that the woman was offensive. And I would like to hear from people what particularly is offensive about this woman is about to say.
Listen to this. I'm sharing it with my husband as well. There are certain Caribbean countries that have agreed to take people, deportees from the United States who the U.S. cannot deport. Okay? They've agreed, we're going to take them, and we could take them, and they can apply for asylum here. Okay, so you have countries like, which is strange, like Antigua, you have St. Kitts, and some others. I'll give you guys the list in this video.
Hold on, I can pause it there. The video what she put up is only 90 seconds, and 30 of the seconds gone. And I ain't hear anything offensive that the lady said. She merely said that there are countries who have agreed to accept refugees. That's it. She not said nothing offensive yet.
But guess how St. Kitts has structured their agreement? They said, okay, we'll take folks back. And of course, these countries, of course, they're not looking for dangerous, what they quote, dangerous, violent people. They'll take folks from the U.S.
She also agreed that we're not looking for anybody who is dangerous or violent. She feel like that is a reasonable perspective. Nobody is disagreeing with Dr. Joe up to this point in time. Okay, let's go.
Except Haitians. Except Haitians. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Can you believe that? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, more than half of the 90 seconds gone. And up to now, I can't hear nothing offensive what she said. She has described the situation. She has agreed with a certain aspect of the situation, and she has pointed out. And as I've been saying, nobody tell Dr. Joe, you have to say this. But all she simply do is point out that no Haitians are in the equation. And that's it. No. Anyway, I'm going to let you say what she has said before me get in.
That's not right.
Listen, that's the sweetest that's not right I ever hear. And I want you to understand, she has not said St. Nevis is the worst place in the world. She is speaking about a particular decision, this particular decision, and she disagrees. She said, that is not right. I don't hear any calling down as of yet. But if anybody disagree, I would like to hear your perspective of where the calling down is.
That's awful, right? He's speechless. That is wrong. Totally wrong. Let me know your thoughts below.
Okay. So she said that that is awful. She said that that is wrong. And she said that her husband is speechless. And for putting out this video, I am seeing all kind of condemnation of the lady. The lady does not have any facts, and she don't know the history of what St. Kitts and Nevis has done. And I even saw an article speaking about how Haitians were well treated in 2023 when they came ashore in Nevis, actually was, and how the Jew administration was able to treat them in a very humanitarian way and get them back up to par. He said to join the Haitians within the community who accepted them. In order to be fair, we got to give the whole story at all moments in time. The article that y'all keep on putting out there about how the Haitians were well treated, it was an article from June 2023. If you recall, they had to sue in order to be able to stay in St. Kitts and Nevis. The case was brought by a man, a Mr. Tuckett. I do have the article. And 4 months later, basically, and this is after the Haitians were able to obtain an injunction. And in my estimation, when the government realized, yeah, we're going to lose this, they are CARICOM members and they do have certain rights, even though they came into the country illegally. And it was 15 of them. 15 Haitians, I don't think is a national security risk. Well, and unless there is something very troubling when you do the background of these Haitians. But it is not fair to say that the Jew administration took them in and just dealt with them in a humanitarian way, incorporated them back into society. That is only a part of the story. The truth and in fact is that those people had to bring a lawsuit in order to stay within the country and to have their rights. It wasn't automatic. And that part of the story needs to be said in order for it to be fully understood what is taking place. The next thing I want to know is I want to read this MOU. I can't read the MOU really. I can't read the MOU because the MOU, to my knowledge, has not been made public. But we do have this document here which is speaking about why Haitian nationals are not included. Actually, let me read this out my phone because it look smaller. It look smaller than on my phone. What is it? Okay, yeah. The government of St. Christopher and Nevis has long demonstrated compassion, solidarity, support for the people of Haiti. Indeed, St. Kitts and Nevis has consistently been at the vanguard of embracing and defending our brothers and sisters of the Republic of Haiti. I would like more on what has been done, both within the Federation and in international fora, advocating for their dignity, protection, and right to humane treatment wherever they reside. I don't think that we were one of the nations that decided to send any security forces to stabilize, but I left to be seen. I could be wrong. I would like to hear about that. Over the years, Sinkisanis has accepted and integrated a significant number of Haitian nationals, proportionally among the highest in the region. Without any figures, this is just talking. It is from this position of empathy and responsibility that the government continues to approach regional and international migration matters with care and realism. As a small island developing state, St. Kitts and Nevis must balance humanitarian considerations with the practical limits of its resources, infrastructure, and social services. This is the same minister who said he's going to take it to parliament that we need to breed immediately. It's the same one. If we are concerned about a few Haitian nationals in the country, how is this same minister going to advocate and tell people, well, you need to breed? And breeding is so important that I'm going to take it to parliament. I'm not going to institute a policy. If he take it to parliament, is more than a policy he want to institute or not. He want to institute a law. Because I don't see no other reason why you're going to parliament to say that, to say we need more children. We need to increase the birth rate. And how once again are you going to advocate it while on the other side you are saying that we are short on resources, infrastructure, and social services? It doesn't seem to be making sense to me. But these are questions which I think should be asked of the Honorable Dr. Joe. When assessed on a per capita basis, the Federation has reached a threshold beyond which it cannot sustainably absorb additional inflows without placing undue strain on essential systems and further threaten our national security. Once again, we do not have just the prime minister, we have the premier continuously saying we need more people, we need more people, we need more people. But now we have the prime minister who is going to parliament to speak about the increased birth rate, saying that we are beyond our capacity. We do not have any more resources to give to anybody. It seems like a mixed up story. And even if we are beyond our capacity, why accept any nationals at all? This is not just about Haiti. Why accept any national at all when you are going to put out a statement saying that we cannot sustainably absorb additional inflows without placing undue strain? Dr. Joe, it seems like a conflict. I don't know who is your communications person. You might want to relieve them at this point in time. The decision within the framework of the Memorandum of Understanding with the United States reflects these realities. It is not a withdrawal of compassion, nor a departure from regional solidarity, but rather a responsible and transparent acknowledgement of the national capacity constraints. So you are telling me we can take on a few persons from Dominica, and that would not be beyond the national capacity. We could take on Trinidadians, Jamaicans, anybody else. But if it's Haitian, then Haitian don't eat 3 square meals a day. They eat 6. And the 6 meals a day where they're gonna eat is gonna be like locusts. And so we're gonna can't be able to handle that amount of people. I hear you, Dr. Joe. But I wonder if you hear yourself. And once again, xenophobia does come in a lot of different forms. I do not feel like Dr. Joe needed to say any of this, but he did anyway. And now he has to deal with the fallout of such. So, once again, I'm saying I would like to hear from y'all about what y'all feel about the situation. I see a lot of different people feel in different ways. If you do not feel like other nationalities would be a strain, I want to hear and understand why Haitians specifically would be a massive strain. I would like to hear why anybody in particular would be a massive strain. And I would like to know if the country is at capacity. When we have smaller countries in the Caribbean with less resources, by the way, bigger populations, how are they able to do it? What can we learn possibly from them as we move forward? Anyway, I'm done with the Haiti topic. And now we will go to the sovereignty topic. And the first thing we're going to do is sovereignty. Because I got 3 videos on sovereignty. First thing we're going to do is we're going to establish what is the meaning of sovereignty. Because I hear a lot of this, especially in the SSG aspect, how we are giving up our sovereignty. So it is important that we know what it is for. So let's set a standard for what is sovereignty.
For centuries, the idea of sovereignty has shaped the world. It has important domestic and international implications. Within a country, sovereignty guarantees that governments have the ultimate authority over what's going on. This authority applies to everyone who lives within a country's borders, and also whoever happens to be there. Internationally, sovereignty indicates a certain equality between countries. No matter how big or rich a country might be, sovereignty requires it to respect other countries' borders and to avoid using military force to change them.
So, we come to one of the first aspects of sovereignty. Sovereignty is something that if you are from a small country like St. Kitts and Nevis, you should be defending the idea of sovereignty and also international law, like your life depends on it. Because sovereignty allows a nation with 50,000 people to speak to a nation with 50 million people as though you are equals. And it ensures the respect because, see, the first thing I say, you are not allowed to use military force on another sovereign nation. That is a violation of international law. This is one of the things that would have been heavily debated at the UN Security Council meeting when it came to the invasion of Venezuela.
This also means that if a small, impoverished country passes a law or elects a leader who is disliked by the government of a large, wealthy country, the latter does not have the right to interfere.
Once again, very important. Just because you do not like the leader of a nation does not mean that you will go in there and decide, well, okay, I'm going to change the leader. And this is why sovereignty is something that should be important, in particular to small nations, because sovereignty basically protects a smaller nation from a more powerful neighbor, neighborhood in general. Sovereignty acts in the same way as it would for individuals. In the same way, how just because somebody has more money than you in your nation or has more power than you, because somebody else might got a gun. But sovereignty means that you can just come and run into my house and control things, or my neighborhood, as I say, and control things. So it's kind of an extension of that principle.
Although it can react as it sees fit, for example, with sanctions or criticism. There are limitations, though, to just how much a government can dictate what happens within its borders. For example, gross violations of human rights, genocide, and ethnic cleansing have come to be recognized by the governments of the world as unacceptable. So when a country violates protections that guarantee the safety of its people, it risks forfeiting the rights that sovereignty grants, like that promise of non-interference. This is the understanding between countries that has shaped and ordered the modern world. Things weren't always organized this way. 400 years ago, wars raged between countries in Europe over religion, politics, and power. The world was made up of a handful of empires and small kingdoms. Religious and political authorities regularly fought bloody conflicts over territory and authority. Borders were not respected, and the world was often a free-for-all. The concept of sovereignty arose in the mid-17th century during a peace agreement, after one particularly destructive European conflict, the 30 Years' War. It was called the Peace of Westphalia, and it ushered in a world of countries that respected one another's independence. Today,
If you could recall, 400 years ago in Europe was also around the time of the Age of Discovery, when they were just, the world was basically being reconnected, and they found a new world, which led into slavery and these types of situations. So, and as he said, sovereignty was not always respected. Sovereignty basically grew out of not just war, but the idea that they wanted to cut out war as much as possible.
there are almost 200 countries in the world. But outside of those, there are a number of groups, territories, and even governments that advocate or fight for becoming their own country. Not just anyone can claim sovereignty, though, and there can be disagreements as to what is considered a country and therefore eligible for this status. There are no clear rules or procedures for deciding who gets to form a sovereign country, and these efforts are often violent and prolonged. Violations of sovereignty and disputes over what constitutes a violation happen from time to time. Recent examples include Russia's annexation of Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula in 2014, or Iraq's 1990 invasion of Kuwait. Countries can also decide to give up or delegate certain aspects of their sovereignty. For example, many European countries choose to be a part of the European Union, a group with many political and economic advantages. However, joining meant following European Union rules and allowing those rules to supersede national laws. Throughout centuries, sovereignty has provided a central organizing principle that is at the heart of modern international relations. And it is a blueprint of many global institutions, laws, and norms. Overall, the world has become more peaceful, more stable, and less deadly in the centuries since the establishment of sovereignty. But while the concept of sovereignty can be clearly interpreted, its application in the real world is not always so straightforward. Especially in today's modern era, what goes on inside a country can affect us all, and it's not as simple as letting a country go about minding its own business. Refugees, cyberspace, diseases, cash, greenhouse gases. None adhere to lines on a map. Are carbon dioxide emissions a violation of sovereignty? Does an email cross borders? How does sovereignty respond to millions of refugees seeking safety? But governments, economies, militaries, and people are far more interconnected now than they were in the 17th century. The challenge moving forward is how this 400-year-old concept can evolve and adapt to confront modern issues the world faces today.
Okay. So, for the most part, we have established sovereignty. One thing I would also say, in order to be a sovereign, you have to have a particular area of land, and you have to have the ability and you have to have the ability to defend the the land that you have. So a sovereign nation got to have borders. A sovereign nation also has to be able to defend its borders. A sovereign nation also has to be able to create the laws of that particular name. This is one of my disagreements about the SSZ. I do not feel like if you're in a SSZ, you will be able to create your own laws based off what I have seen in the act. You will have the ability to propose them, but that does not mean that they will necessarily become law. It's still going to have to go to Parliament, and unless there is something in the contract which says that every proposal make has to be passed, it will be considered a breach, I don't feel like that is gonna be constituting a breach. The next clip we're gonna listen to is a PBS hour clip, and we're gonna speak about the defense of sovereignty. That now was like the theory, but now we got to get into how you are able to protect this sovereignty. In my estimation, there are only 9 sovereign nations on the earth. And Mr. John Mearsheimer is going to speak about the situation now in Iran.
Now, 2 views on whether a nuclear-armed Iran makes the Middle East a safer place. John Mearsheimer is a professor at the University of Chicago. He's a West Point graduate and former Air Force officer, and he's written extensively on strategic issues. Dov Zakheim served in the Pentagon during the administrations of George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan. He's now a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And gentlemen, thank you both for being with us. John Mearsheimer, I'm going to start with you. This all did start with that article in Foreign Affairs magazine by Kenneth Waltz. You don't go as far as he does in arguing that a nuclear-armed Iran would be a net positive, but you do agree with him that it would bring stability to the region. Why?
I think there's no question that a nuclear-armed Iran would bring stability to the region because nuclear weapons are weapons of peace. They're weapons of deterrence. They have hardly any offensive capability at all. And if Iran had a nuclear deterrent, there's no way that the United States or Israel, for that matter, would be threatening to attack Iran now. In the same way that if Saddam had had nuclear weapons in 2003, the United States would not have invaded Iraq. And if Libya had nuclear weapons in 2011, the United States would not have gone to war against Libya. So I think that if you had a Middle East where other states besides Israel, and this of course includes Iran, had a nuclear deterrent, it would be a more peaceful region. But the problem is that there is always some small possibility that there will be nuclear use. And the most likely scenario is what's oftentimes referred to as inadvertent escalation. And this is where you have a conventional war that starts off with no intention of turning into a nuclear war, but inadvertently escalates to the nuclear level. And you can hypothesize all sorts of situations, for example, where a conventional war between India and Pakistan, which both have nuclear weapons, escalates from the conventional to the nuclear level. And of course, the same logic applies to the Middle East. There's only a very small possibility that that would happen. But that small possibility is enough to make me very wary of the idea of Iran acquiring nuclear weapons.
Okay, so
ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to speak about being a sovereign, and the Caribbean has no shot to get nukes, but if you are not protected by nukes, at least somebody else who has them, you're not really a sovereign country. It's why you could see Iran as strong as they are. Iran does get bombed. Whereas when you look at India, when you look at Pakistan, nope. Even when you look at the little rocket man in North Korea, you ain't bombing North Korea because North Korea has the capacity to defend itself. What I am speaking here is part of what is referred to as the Hassanabi Doctrine. We're going to that shortly. But it is kind of critical that you understand what is taking place as far as the sovereignty thing. As a matter of fact, I don't feel like we need to hear any more of Mr. John Mersheimer. We can go straight to the Hassanabi Doctrine so you could hear. This is from Hassan Piker, one of my favorite political commentators.
Incredible.
Yesterday. So now tomorrow, third straight week of nuke talks with Iran. They named Michael Anton, senior State Department official, to lead the technical team on Iran's nuclear negotiations. How do you feel about where we're at right now? What do your sources tell you? What kind of progress is being made?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, we know a couple of things. One, Iran's not going to dismantle the program as we asked them to do, by a date certain with inspections and verification. Obviously, that's not happening. That's the same thing that Obama did, by the way. When they began negotiations in 2013, they told Iran to dismantle your program, give up.
Yeah, that's the other side of the story that's really funny, is that Donald Trump, who delivered the death blow to Barack Obama's signature foreign policy accomplishment, has now turned around and is trying to do Barack Obama's Iran denuclearization agreement. I fucking love that, dude. That is awesome.
Give up enrichment, give up the centrifuges, give up your ballistic missiles. They balked, and then we accepted civil nuclear power enrichment. They kept their centrifuges and they kept their ballistic missiles. They eventually got real close to a nuclear weapon, as we all know, which is the concern we have today. The Iranians are masters at working these negotiations to their favor. So we have to keep an eye on this, certainly.
This guy has straightforwardly the worst positions on everything, by the way. He's like, I don't know about this Iran denuclearization agreement. Maybe we should just nuke Iran ahead of time.
The administration wants a nuclear program that cannot even come close to weaponization. Mm-hmm. But even if you take away all the enrichment and leave the centrifuges and the ballistic missiles, they can get enriched uranium from many countries. We get it from 4 or 5 different countries, to include Russia. China, Russia, and North Korea all have enriched uranium. Why? Because they all have nuclear weapons, and they're their closest allies. So clandestinely, they can still get enriched uranium, and they keep the centrifuges to spin that and get it to a weaponization grade, and they keep the ballistic missiles so they can deliver it. That's what we have to be very careful of going forward here.
We got to be Americans on the ground watching the dismantling.
Maybe people will yell at me for saying this, but I do think that the region will be way more stable if Iran had fucking nukes. This is not just my take. This is the Mersheimer protocol. He says this as well. I think Jeffrey Sachs might have said this too. It's kind of insane to think that I could get away with saying this shit. I mean, I have before, but like the Hasanabi doctrine remains true. And it's low-key part, it's the only reason why I think this is because Israel has nukes. I feel like if Israel did not have nukes, which they have, and it's too late, and they've had it for a very long time. If Israel did not have nukes, then I would not have this exact same perspective. Do you think nuclear winter will be beneficial for climate change? I mean, as it stands, you either have a fucking nuke or you don't. You know what I mean? If you don't have a nuke, you get walked over. What are nations supposed to do? Don't make me tap the sign, dude. Don't make me tap the fucking sign. There it is. The Hasanabi Doctrine, a guide for nation building. Rule number 1, get nukes. Rule number 2, do not give up the nukes. You know who did rule number 2? You know who violated rule number 2? Ukraine, bitch. That's who violated rule number 2. Ukraine fucked up. And you're over here talking about, oh, dude, countries can't have nukes. What are you talking about? Okay, rule number 3. If you're accused of having nukes, drop everything and immediately find some nukes. Especially if America says you have nukes, you have to find nukes. If you don't have nukes after America says you have nukes, you're fucked. Countries that have gone through this process and did not find nukes. Leadership like Gaddafi. Gaddafi learned the problem with rule number 3. Okay? Saddam Hussein, a different version of that. Both of those guys went out in not so great ways. Okay? Ukraine is a violator of rule number 2. Gave up the fucking nukes. I'm not Mr. Nukes have actually created global stability and global peace, but as it stands, you look at countries that don't have nukes and you look at countries that do have nukes. Okay? And it kind of feels like countries that don't have nukes are getting dominated by countries that do. When did Ukraine have nukes? I mean, technically it was USSR nukes that were in Ukraine, and they had no way of using them. But it doesn't matter. You should have just, on principle, never given up the nukes. Bro, a Soviet soldier literally prevented the nuclear holocaust like it's defo not a force of stability. That's right. You admit the glory of the Soviets? I've never not admitted the glory of the Soviets. What are you talking about? Technically, USSR ceased to exist and they belonged to Ukraine. Yeah, but the launching platform was still in control of Russia.
Anyway, I was just letting my guy cook. But ladies and gentlemen, according to the Hasanabi doctrine, it's basically saying you need to have the capacity to defend yourself. And at this particular time, the ultimate way to defend yourself is with nuclear weapons. That's it. China, if China didn't have nukes, that dam that they built that literally has stopped the slowed down the rotation of the earth, that would have been bombed. China could not do anything that they're doing now. Even Russia. None of these countries would matter in the same type of way that they do if they did not have this particular capability. We barely have militaries, much less nukes. So it is not within our capacity at any moment in time. We don't need to be talking about sovereignty. There ain't no real sovereignty if you do not have the capacity to defend your territory. I mean, I even heard Stephen Miller. If you're paying attention, the United States is saying that they would like to purchase, in some manner, take over Greenland. And Stephen Miller said, if Denmark does not have the capacity to defend Greenland, why should they have the territory? Denmark does not have nukes. Denmark does not have the capacity to defend the territory. And it is likely that it is going to end up being American territory. That's just it. That's just how the game is played. So, as much as you have heard about sovereignty, there is the theoretical, which we went over in the first part in the nice little video. But when we're speaking about in practice, your sovereignty is not going to be respected unless you demonstrate the capacity to defend that sovereignty in a real manner. Done with the sovereignty aspect right now, and I'm gonna go to another person who has become fond of Jimmy the Giant, and he's speaking about Brits. I wonder if I should do this. I'll see if this. You know, I'm gonna do it now. But essentially, this video is speaking about enclaves, because this is another aspect that has been spoken about with regards to the SSZ, how it's going to be an enclave, how it's going to be its own thing. And he's speaking about British enclaves and Britons traveling abroad, because, as you know, the British Empire was an empire that the sun never set on. So he's going to be relating on how some of the British enclaves have operated throughout the world. So we're going to listen to a little piece of Jimmy the Giant.
Selves, and don't worry, because the locals will clean up after you. It's like, that's the sort of...
Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, the Brit abroad working class Brit, done and put aside. But then you have to wonder, right, if you take that same cultural software, but put it in a Brit who has maybe more money, maybe more education, maybe they're professionals, and maybe a bit more cultural capital. What happens then? Well, my friends, you get the middle class Brit abroad.
What have you been doing? I'm just here for a few days.
Okay, well, please, come stay with us. 100% come stay with us.
I can't. I would love to, but I've got to go back and finish my book.
You can finish your book at our place, so stay with us for as long as you want. It'll be epic.
I'll film Matt, and these two are like best buds back in the day. Boulay would lead Jamie astray. What? Quite regularly. He's a very bad influence, this guy.
Now, the middle-class Brit abroad, he's not going to Benidorm. No. In fact, the opposite. They've built their entire personality around not being the type of Brit that goes to Benidorm. You know, we don't go there with the riffraff. No, we prefer to experience real, authentic Spain. Often...
The reason why I started the video here, this is not the full video, but our politicians have been telling us how they are trying to attract the luxurious person, the person with the money. So what Jimmy is basically going to do, he's going to describe for you how the Brits with money, how they travel, how they see the world, how they fit in to their different enclaves.
These people will tend to spend more time in like old towns, historical places. They want the authentic food. They want all the experiences. Basically, I can't lie, that's me and my wife. I am basically one of these pricks. And like, you know, they're very interesting. But I think what is more interesting is to talk about the middle-class Brit abroad that has its own specific name. A unique category that only they can put themselves in, and that is the expats. Nice to meet you, Jose. Yes, I am an expat of the nation of Britain. You might have heard of it. Basically, this is the term for like a typically European wealthy person who is an immigrant, but often because we're white, we get our own special term that's like less scary than the word immigrant. Expats are, it's a big category, and it can be broken down into different types of expats, all of which have different connections to the country they are currently in. Firstly, we'll start off with the digital nomad. This is the new class, right? This came out, new update, new meta. Never used to exist, but now, because you can work on your MacBook, you will find digital nomads in various remote working locations all around the world. Bali, Chiang Mai, Thailand, Costa Rica, they're everywhere. What stands out with these lot is they have a very transient relationship with the nation they're in. It's unlikely that they'll live in that nation for the rest of their life. One thing that kind of shows this is the language in which they will speak about traveling. They'll typically list nations as like bullet points and itinerary. And you hear it a lot in the term to do a country, right? You'll hear it like, oh yeah, we're going to do Thailand for 2 years. Oh, we done Brazil for 2 months. We are doing Bali. The digital nomad is interesting because they aren't exclusively British. Many of them are, but they are often a very international bunch, but they tend to have a very similar sort of cosmopolitan, maybe middle-class young professional type culture. They tend to have very shared interests. Maybe they're all into like yoga, drinking matcha. Maybe they do a bit like kickboxing, or they have some sort of vague spirituality involving some rocks or something. And I do notice with these lot, they do attempt to connect with local culture, but often it feels somewhat commodified. So they might be spiritual, but probably they're not going to go to like the local temple that the locals go to, but rather they might attend some, I don't know, Reiki healing session led by some Swiss person who used to work in marketing but got burnt out and moved to Bali. And they might like some of the art of the culture. They might get tattoos. Oh shit, your boy got a Thailand tattoo. I am literally this person. They may also engage with some of the traditional fashion of the local community, but it will be in a more stylized, hip, sort of Western way. Typically, they don't really learn the language. They might learn some hellos, goodbyes, thank yous, and they're not going to try and assimilate and integrate into the actual culture. Like, they're not going to be out on the fields working, planting fruit.
That is one of the important things to factor in, as he's saying, when he said that they will not assimilate to the local culture. I think this is one of the dangers that people have been speaking about when they're speaking about the Destiny Project. It is not very likely that they are going to adapt to Nevis culture. More than likely, they are going to bring their culture from wherever they're from, and they're going to kind of inject it into Nevis culture. You're going to see it in the hotels. You are going to see it all over. And once again, he started off speaking about the digital nomads. These are the people who basically could work from the computer from anywhere in the world.
And all that. They may sometimes eat local food, but they're probably not going to eat where the locals eat. And very likely they will also eat a lot of Western cuisine, avocados and eggs and all the stereotypes. And the biggest divide really is the living situation. They're never going to live with the locals. They will rent or maybe even buy very modern Western style accommodation, usually beautiful places that they would never afford back home. And yeah, the locals themselves could never afford these types of places. And I would say the digital nomad, unlike the colonial mindset, they won't necessarily talk down on the locals or local culture. They probably don't see them as inferior, or they don't speak of them as inferior. And to some extent, they may even admire them and probably do have some sympathy for them. However, when it really comes to it, the digital nomad, of course, benefits from their Western budgets, their Western passports, and they bring with them all of their styles, businesses, food, and culture, and often build it in these digital nomad places. And the locals have to adapt their own culture, right? I went to a community farm in Bali, and they had to market it using Western social media, written in English, to advertise to Westerners to come there and get a little tour around the farm and try the food and kind of make it themselves, but not really do the hard work. And the reason they have to do this in the first place is because these traditional organic local farms are being outcompeted by rich people buying up lots of farms, turn them into factory farms to grow enough fruit and veg to supply the restaurants to sell to the digital nomads. And all
that point that Jimmy just made is also a point that is kind of playing on my mind now. seeing as Mr. Jansen said he has land in other parts of Nevis, I could see how they are gonna grow food just to go over in the SSZ zone. The food there is not gonna have anything to do with what is going on locally. That is not gonna be for local people. The food there is gonna be used to support the restaurants and the businesses over in the zone, and you could see them acquiring even more land in order to execute these type of things. And the important thing to note is that he was speaking and he tell you from the start, I'm one of these people. I've lived this life. He even showing you videos of him in jurisdictions having the experiences. So this is not from somebody who is attempting to kind of hide what the situation is. He's trying to inform about what is taking place.
All the while, the locals really don't reap much benefit from it. They're often forced out of living in where they grew up, and they live in very poor, low-quality housing. So whilst it's not exactly the same as old-school colonialism, it very much rhymes with it. It looks very similar. It's more like an enlightened liberals version of colonialism, where ironically for these digital nomads, they are trying to escape the oppression of their nation, where their wages would not afford them a high-quality life, and they are cashing in on the inherent privilege of being a Westerner with a powerful passport, using that to escape their exploitation back home to travel to a poor country and exploit someone else in their land.
The initial plan was to travel 9 months up to 1 year and then go back and work. But 2.5 years are gone, and I've still got enough money to keep traveling, and I'm making more money as I travel now.
And so with digital nomads out the way, we move on to our next category, and that is the European expat. So typically a lot of older expats will just move to like Southern Europe, where it's not as cheap as, say, Bali, but the infrastructure is a bit better. It's a bit more similar to European culture, and they can kind of expect a certain standard of life that maybe out in Bali they wouldn't get. And the culture is more similar. They haven't got to challenge themselves so much. Typically the European expat will show up in something like the burnt out city worker who's moving his kids, his whole family out to Spain, Portugal, France in the hope for a better life.
It's been 18 months since partners Peter Thompson and Lee Bradford came here to live.
It's been a good move, definitely. I don't say I desperately miss Watford. We're enough money to live, and we spend most of the day in the sunshine.
But they also will show up in retired Brits. You know, they might have sold off their house, they have a pension, and they want to basically spend all their money before they die drinking wine and sitting on the beach.
An hour from Alicante on the Costa Blanca. This is not Spain as the Spanish know it.
Orella Costa, as they call it. It's all ex-British.
If you walk about, you hear a lot of English spoken, do you?
Yes,
yes, you do.
Yeah. Much more than Spanish.
Orella Costa has been likened to a giant retirement village. Rows of near-identical houses, home to perhaps one of the biggest concentrations of expat Brits anywhere.
And often when they're asked about why they wanted to move abroad, they say the same sort of things. They say they left Britain for a better quality of life, for a slower pace of life, in search of proper community, commuting, competing in the rat race. In a sense, they are trying to escape the British class system. But the thing is, that's what they say. But once they are there, the expats aren't like all the same. They don't all live the same type of life. And they can often be split into a few categories. Number one, the coastal comfort crew. These lot tend to live in apartments or villas on the costas. They play golf all day. They go to markets. These are like your old orange, wrinkly Brit who has lived in Spain a while.
This seemed to me to be the ideal retirement place. Each house is different. So all of the houses are unique. Nobody has the same house, really. You've got all the lovely flowers, the trees, the greenery, the outside pool. At the moment, I consider it to be a little paradise, yes.
And they mainly engage in like British culture. They go to British bars, British restaurants. They'll buy British newspapers. They will join Brits in Spain Facebook groups and social groups, organising activities. Then you get another group, right? The separatists, the rural.
As I keep on saying, I played this video before we got into the Jansen's thing because I found that this video is explaining from someone who has done this and from someone who has studied these type of people and the interactions and how they get on. It is explaining how it is possible that the Destiny Project, the kind of impacts it's gonna have, it's not likely that the South Coast and Nevis is going to remain Nevision. It's likely that it's gonna become European, and that when you go there, you are gonna kind of have to adapt to that rather than it being a Nevision, a purely Nevision circumstance. If you understand what I'm saying.
Idle crew. These lot are a little bit more remote and a little bit more separate than the coastal comfort crew. They tend to live more inland than in the coast, and they tend to buy like old crumbling farmhouses. And they'll talk often about getting more space, trying to be more in nature, trying to get real village life. And these lot, they tend to actually work still. So they might set up like an Airbnb, might do some self-employment. And what's quite funny is when they're interviewed, both of these groups tend to sort of judge and quietly slag each other off.
We're living in Singapore. We should live in Singapore. We shouldn't live in some kind of mock hotel nearer to the city. So moving out here into the suburbs was absolutely the right move.
The coastal crew sort of say, we just wanted a bit of sun. We're just being ourselves, we're being British. And it's those weird inland expats who try and pretend that they're locals and that they're better than us. And then when you ask the inland people, they will differentiate themselves from the coastal lot because they say that they're not the Brits that came here to just experience Britain in the sun. They say that they wanted a real feel of the country, the culture. And they will often judge the coastal British enclave types as not integrated into local culture. But a big part of the power dynamic tends to be around who needs to work and who doesn't. Because some of these expats have to rent. Some of them don't. Some of them buy places out there. Some of them have big places out there and places back in Britain. Some have generous pensions and investments that pay them, good amount of money. Others of them have to work and they set up businesses. Usually businesses that are focused on British people. Bars, salons, even estate agents. And that's like a business owner, but then below them, there's Brits, expats that have to do more like manual work. Jobs for cash where, they might be cleaners, bar staff, brickies, pool guys. And very interestingly, the comfortable expats tend to hire the more precarious expats. So they will hire British gardeners, British cleaners, British handymen doing jobs around the villa. And so while they were trying to escape the rat race and the class system, a new mini class system starts to emerge here. Because if you look at who actually hangs out together, it basically all reverts back to people with the similar amount of money who did the similar jobs back in Britain with similar tastes, similar politics. They tend to group together. So instead of the British expat going to Spain to escape the judgments of the British class system, they effectively just rebuild it.
I've lived in Australia for 13 years now.
Right.
And what I've seen the differences between Australia and England, well, I don't want to say it, but we don't let them in over here, We stop the boats. We don't stop the boats.
Well, they let you in, Roger.
Well, they let me in, but it's different when I get in, isn't it? So, we built this country.
And I want to just say finally, right, why I find this interesting. There is really something you can learn from the Brit abroad. Is that between all of this chaos, the snobbery, the fry-ups, the Brit abroad really can act a bit like a mirror. A mirror that shows us how deep some of these old imperial mindsets, how much they can remain inside the way we think and the way we behave. We can see how our class system travels with us, how old colonial habits still shape global imbalances of power. And I think, if that legacy, can follow me on a Ryanair flight, where else is it showing up in the world? And where else is it still causing damage? Being British makes the world easier in ways that most people don't get to enjoy. That is an enormous privilege. And my point here isn't like to shame ourselves, but rather just to notice that and be aware of it. And maybe to develop a bit more self-awareness and laugh at ourselves. And maybe the next time we go abroad, instead of comparing everything to the British standard, maybe we can humble ourselves. Maybe we don't have to pass so much judgment, and maybe we can listen a bit more. So next time you're projectile vomiting in a toilet in Shagaloo.
Okay. Don't need to hear any more from Jimmy. But I hope that was helpful. I hope that was kind of some insight on some of the concerns, some of the ways that the some of the things that we need to keep in mind about the Destiny Project. I overall feel like there could be some positives from the Destiny Project. I would disagree fundamentally with the project, not because I disagree with development, because when I look at the SEZs that have been the most effective, the most beneficial for the people, there have been SSZs that have not been focused on tourism primarily, but focus on manufacturing, focus on skills training. And because it focused on different skills that the people may not have had, then it allowed the people in those areas to acquire different skills, whether it's manufacturing, skills beyond tourism, skills beyond, like, I do not feel like we need to be training more like concierges and that type of thing. We need to actually move up the value chain and produce something. I wouldn't mind if, for example, the SSZ was more like companies that create apps. And so we get more into science and technology, a lot more design. You could stay in Nevis, in my estimation, and do designs which would allow us to increase our intellectual property, and you could sell those designs to somebody who does the manufacturing for a small percentage of the profit. Even if we weren't directly to do the manufacturing, I feel like there would be a lot of money in doing design work, whether it's for apps, whether it's for all kind of different things. And by doing that, we could get more skills, whether it's technological skills, etc. And these, for me, would put us in a better position to develop the country, rather than, as I say, more tourism skills. Now, for the last part of the show, we are going to continue in our recollection of the Janssens interview. I have told y'all I don't know what is happening with this particular project. When we look again, and coming back to what we started off the show with, how is it that Janssens is going to bring 10,000 people into the country when we cannot handle a small number of Haitians? And by the way, I did see a comment with somebody saying that is 32,000 Haitians are currently being held in the United States. We are not going to take 32,000 of anything. My question for Dr. Ju is not for us to take 32,000 or to take all or to take 1,000 or anything like that. My question is why we can't even take one Haitian. Why one Haitian would be a national security risk, would absorb all of our resources, whereas when we bring in 10,000 Europeans, they would not cause any kind of dampening, any kind of bad effect. I do not understand how they would be able to survive off of the resources, but these other persons would be an immediate national security issue. So that is my point of contention there. Anyway, let's continue with the Janssens interview.
So, of course, it became clear after a while, but initially we didn't tell anyone, including real estate agents, that we work with what it was for. No, we just started optioning land. And also you have to realize Nevis has about 12,000 people, right? It's not like there's 100 real estate agencies, right? There's only a couple that you can work with, and a couple of them are very qualified, right? There's not like 100 you can choose from. With the best agencies, and that's it. It's not because.
So what was the reason? What was the reason for not of conflict of interest in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, if the smaller your population becomes, the more you always have risk for a conflict of interest. If you have like 1,000 people living on an island, everyone knows everyone. It's always fully conflict of interest. Like if you're a small.
Is the premier related to Ron Daniel? Isn't Ron Daniel a real estate agent? I do not understand how you are telling me that Nevis only has this very limited number of real estate agents. Listen, even if I believe you, the real estate agent that you pick happens to be the wife of the premier. No, for certain, that is a conflict of interest. We need to go down the line and to determine if the premier is related to all of the real estate agents. Because I do not buy this thing of in every scenario it would have been a conflict of interest. That can be accurate. And I have not heard a denial one.
Population like 10,000 people, you'll always have some potential conflict of interest because maybe your brother is in parliament. It's very hard for us to avoid because we didn't choose real estate agents based on the connections, right? We just chose them for the qualities. And I mean, that it's also, and just take this a step further, right? Even if there was like a conflict of interest, right? There's no, I mean, you still have a cabinet to work with. The cabinet will look at that, right? So it's going to be not looked at by one person, which is the king of this thing, right? It's many other people. If somehow this would not be a sound proposal because there was one real estate agent involved that had a potential conflict of interest, which I never played out in any way, right? Then, yeah, of course, you will still have so many people that still have to approve that. So it's not like you have a king and then he decides. This is not the case. So I would be less concerned because there's so many eyes on this that this is not the case, right? And I can tell you honestly, there's nothing there, right? I'm very careful because I know, like political influence, stuff like that. I'm very worried about that. We don't want to go there, so we don't touch that. We're just negotiating real estate deals, right? And that's it. I mean, there's no quid pro quo type of deal,
Okay, we just want to let the listening and viewing audience know we're going to open up the lines now. But remember, when you call in, you have 10 seconds to ask 1 or 2 quick questions. So have your questions prepared, be concise, please, so we can accommodate as much calls. My WhatsApp is not working properly, so I appreciate if you call on WhatsApp overseas, yes, on phone. But the local calls, I can accommodate the local calls, and yes, and can probably accommodate the calls overseas if that makes sense. So remember, the numbers across the screen, the 662-7196, that is for the local calls, and the next number is for the overseas, the 665-8459. We have a call coming in. Let me take the first call now. Yes, sir? Okay. Yeah, but while you're taking the call, before we get to that, let me just ask. Hold on there, yes, sir. Hello, caller? Hello? Yes, go ahead. You're live. Oi. wrong call. That's sorry about that. Go ahead, yes, son. Yes. What do you say to the critics? As you would have mentioned earlier that you're a Nevision, and you thought that you're a Nevision. You have been a Nevision for over 8 years. What do you say to the critics who say, well, I mean, if you've been a Nevision for so long, I mean, a lot of these projects that you're looking to work with the government now, you could have already assisted and invested in some, or
have you invested in any project, so to speak, to enhance Nevis that we don't know about?
Yeah, I sort of actually like that in a way, because it's like, I would have loved to do already a lot more, right? And, I did small things here and there. I don't want to be public about that, but, it's really, I think this is the biggest thing I can do, right, for St. Kitts and Nevis, and the whole Caribbean. So, you have to understand this has been in the works for almost, like, I don't know, this doesn't happen overnight. It has been years of work I already put in there to prepare for all of this, right? The whole legislation and code we have in mind is, it takes years to build this. So it's really, and I'm not talking about legislation from the government, the SSE Act. I'm talking about the internal Destiny legislation, because people will pull that out of context too, probably. But anyway, it doesn't get built. It's been a lot of work, trust me. It's been 24/7 for years to get to this point. It's been incredibly difficult, but I really believe that we can give back to the island in unprecedented ways. You will.
And the reason why I pause it here right now is I thought that he had said that it was only 20 months prior to this conversation that he realized that he wanted to go down this path. But now he is saying that there's been years and years of preparation. And so it seems like there's a contradiction there. And I don't know. It's just another contradiction that I see. First, it kind of just materialized, I think, in the summer of 2024. And now he's saying that it's years and years, and they've been even thinking about the legislation, the internal legislation that they have in mind for the project. So
All get a share of the profit. I would love to also talk about the system we have in place, because we're ready to go live with that, right? For example, the 5% to give back, and which is a good question, by the way. How do we start giving back immediately?
Wait.
Yeah, before you touch the 5%, Yasan, let me get a caller in, Yasan. Let me get this caller on, and then you can touch the 5%. Caller, can you go ahead, please?
Hi, my name is Omar Robinson. Born Condition here from St. Kitts and Nevis. I want Mr. Oliver to emphasize on the residential aspect that he's working on.
Can you raise your voice, please? Can you speak up louder?
Yeah, could you hear me now?
Yeah, speak up. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want him to emphasize or give us a breakdown of what your destiny idea would be for residential petitions, divisions, coming to have either, instead of just working and being a part of whatever department, restaurant or whatever, we want him to focus on the residential, where we could live there.
Thank you, caller.
Housing for petitions and divisions.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. You got that?
Yeah, I got that. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, absolutely. I would love for Kittians and Nevisians to live in Destiny, right, and buy residences there. It's completely open, so you can please, if you want to come. Also, Destiny is completely open, right? Yeah, you go to a security check, like in the Four Seasons, but it's not closed to the public. Everything remains open. We want people to come there all the time. It's part of Nevis. It's not like a separate enclave or some special place where you cannot come. It's not like a gated community which is completely privatized. Absolutely not. It's the opposite. We want people to come over there and enjoy the improved beaches, which will be incredibly beautiful. I think it will uplift the whole island, and it will be incredible. And it's part of you. It's for everyone.
He's saying that they're gonna improve the beaches over there. I don't know if anybody who has been in the water over there. The big boys. When we're talking about sharks, they are over there. And when we're talking about waves again, oh my God, it is tremendous, in my opinion. So I will look at people going to the water. I don't think that I'm gonna be one of those who is enjoying the waters over on that side of Nevis. And that's just me. I'm not telling anybody don't go in the water. I'm telling you, I'm not going to be going in that water.
We're just, no. Can I go into the 5% real quick? What I want to say about 5%. So we will, good idea, right? Giving back immediately. How do we do that? Because, yeah, of course, I would like to have done it already like earlier, but we're still constrained. We don't have an agreement yet. So what I said is, okay, it might take a couple of years before we start generating profit as this, right? So what do we do for the people in the meanwhile? So my proposal was, let's already fund the profit tank, so to speak, right, with 1 million right away today, and let's continue doing 1 million a year into this profit fund, and start paying it out to people immediately. So if you have 5%, that basically means you can get like $30 EC a month. We start that tomorrow, so to speak, and you will get that until we make a profit. And the moment we make a profit as Destiny, obviously it will become much more. It will have as a potential to become hundreds of dollars or beyond.
I need to know, has anybody gotten the $30 for the month yet? Has anybody registered yet? I have not registered. I will not be registering at this moment in time. But I would like to hear from anybody if they have registered, number one. And second of all, I would like to hear from anybody if they have received their $30 per month at this time. Just want to know. It's very interesting.
And this will be started the moment we get permission from the government. I would love to start that today, but unfortunately, you need a license to be able to send money to people. And I'm going to ask the government for an exemption where we can start doing that immediately, because we have the system in place where people can install an app on the phone and they can, or get a credit card, and they get.
Okay. I'll pause there again. It seems like if you ain't get your $30 is because the government has not granted the exemption. So I would like to appeal to those in the authorities. Free up the $30 a month. You know what I mean? That's 3 guineas right there. So let's see what's going on with the $30 a month.
The money paid every month into their account, and they can spend it anywhere they want. I would love to do that immediately, right? This is how we give back. And once we start making a profit, that money will increase substantially. Also, sort of as a sign-up bonus, I would love to give $100 to everyone just to install the thing and start using it. But again,
sign-in bonus. Wow. But that's $130. That's $50. Who got the $50 yet? The US are the 130 EC yet? Please come to the front of the line so that we go see what's going on with these money. And if the money has not been paid, I would tell the authorities, free up the money, free up the Destiny money. Let we get an exemption. Well, and unless that gun got to be paid back in double by the taxpayers. If that's the case, then we don't want any money again, because that's liability.
I cannot launch that until we have some permission. But this is a way to give back immediately. I would love to do that right away.
I know earlier you mentioned, you keep referring to $50 million. $50 million. How did that go? How you want to give that money? How you want to be making all these money to be doing all these things, giving $50 million, giving 5%, giving 20%? How will this money end up within the NIA? Because remember, if this is a CBI project, the money have to go through the federal government, where they have to share the you see what I mean? The money is not like the money staying in Nevis. They still have to go over to St. Kitts, where the money got to share at the paratum, something like that. You understand? It's not like, oh, Nevis hold the money in a work. So how would all this money end up in Nevis? To give them all this money?
Yeah, the CBI is outside of the 50 million, right? It's separate. So the CBI income, Nevis will probably get 25% of that. I don't know. CBI income is potentially $500 million or more dollars coming into CBI when we sell this amount of units. 25% of that will go to Nevis. But of course, the 50 million is not dependent on sales, because the concern of the government was, for example, well, if you don't sell a lot, how do we get any money? Because you can promise 20% profit, you can promise a CBI income, but if you don't sell any units, then we don't get any money. So they wanted some guarantees. So we told Nia, Nia proposed, or I don't know who came up with it exactly, but we do $50 million over the next 5 years, which means guaranteed you will get $10 million a year. No matter if we sell or make a profit, you get that money, right? On top of that, you also get the CBI income, right? This is what we have agreed so far. Again, it's not signed. This is where we are. And yeah, it's 10 million a year. Where does the money come from? Well, from the profits. And if we don't make a profit yet, it will come from me or other investors that will have to pay $10 million to the government until we make a profit to pay it with, right? We can pay we can afford to pay $10 million to the government a year today. That's possible for us, and we will do so. So that's not a problem.
You have a question here, caller here. Caller, go ahead. Good evening. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Banky.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks for having me. I would like to ask Mr. Olivier a question.
Yes, go ahead, please, quick.
Because it seems to me that there will be a lot of jobs available, and I just hear Mr. Oliver said that doing it by stages, and you have to wait until one is complete for to the other. So how much jobs will be available? What kind of jobs we're talking about, and how would it benefit us? Thank you.
All right, thanks for calling.
Yeah,
okay.
Good. Thank you.
Yes.
So how many jobs are available or will be available? Well, technically, if you have that size of a development, it will be thousands of jobs, right? That's why we already have these job openings today, because the moment the agreement is signed, we don't want to start then reaching out to people and suddenly, we need to find all the people to start working. So that's why we made a call to companies and people. If you have services to offer as a company, already let us know. We're talking to these companies. I think virtually everyone who signed, who submitted the job application, we have contacted already back. So we're talking to all of them, and we're asking them to send resumes in. So we have that data available. The moment we launch, we have people that can start working right away. We also have 2 offices opening on both islands. We have an office for Destiny opening on St. Kitts, and an office on Nevis. We're working on that right now. We already have people that can start working right now because we need people to fill those positions, right? We have several positions that we already hired for. And of course, the moment we become public, once the agreement is signed, we will have many jobs that are required and companies to help. And we also have in the agreement that we have to prioritize Nevisians and Kittians. So whenever jobs are opened, we have to prioritize Kittians and Nevisians, and we will, right? So we will give them first priority to work. And there's been some rumors about,
okay, 10 seconds.
We can only do like gardening and stuff like that. I'm thinking like, what are you saying? That's really offensive. Like, this is insane. There's so many high quality jobs that you can do, engineering, medical stuff. That's why we also have a scholarship program, so we can help for the current students to and the agreement there was that you have a scholarship, $1 million in scholarship funds, under the condition that after you have to come back, right, to actually work here. You don't get a scholarship and then you vanish. So it's part of the deal that you come back to work in St. Kitts and Nevis.
I like the scholarship aspect. I can this line with what I'm saying with training, the exchange of technology with regards to the people acquiring new skills, people acquiring education. I love this scholarship aspect. I feel like we would need to hear more so that we could understand if the scholarships are in particular areas that would enhance the project, which would make it more sustainable. For example, if we're gonna do the solar panels, we could start to send persons abroad to study that type of technology. So I feel like that is definitely a positive aspect, something that could be a positive aspect of the Destiny deal if signed.
I think that's important. I
Line,
also think that so many people will come back.
let me get the caller.
Side of
Let me get this
like,
caller in, Mr. Jensen. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, quick question for Mr. Jensen. You just mentioned that an office will be opened on the island of St. Kitts and one on Nevis as well for Destiny. My question is related to that. When did this? Have you had any discussions with the federal government about Destiny? And when did those discussions begin? Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course we had discussions with the governments. I mean, with both of them, right? So as I mentioned with the premier, the initial ideas were discussed in 2024 in the summer, and then they took more shape. It became more serious, and then we had enough land, and it was serious enough to go public. Summer 2025, sort of the summer 2025, right? But of course, yeah, we have been talking to the governments, and we will continue to do so, of course. In terms of the offices, yeah, so these offices will be job offices, and for other purposes, you know, if people have questions about the project, they can come in, they can ask them. We want to be very transparent. As I said, please contact us, ask us all your questions. We have nothing to hide, you know, and even if we would have something to hide, it will still become public in a parliamentary session. But again, we do not have anything to hide. I'm actually happy to be here because I want to address all the concerns of people, right? I know so much stuff going around.
One of the things that is also, I realize on the screen at the town hall, we have the area, we have the hot springs. I'm going to use a spa.
Yeah, the answer that was confusing, as the federal government has consistently stated that they don't know anything about this Destiny project. They have not spoken to the authorities from Destiny as yet. So I find that statement slightly confusing, but we let it go on. So somebody is not being factual. That's all I would say.
One of the historical society also have some queries about the development. So how did the development and getting control of the hot spring to be a part of the spa? Within that was any collaboration with the historical society? Can I seem not to know about these things, because even myself had to go over to verify, but with someone I didn't even know about the area. So how did your company know about all this whole area where even some locals don't even know about what is on the island? How was that possible? Before you answer that, let me take this call coming in. Okay, go ahead. Answer the question. Go ahead.
Me? Okay. So yeah, for the hot springs, it was also for us a discovery, right? I think many people didn't know there were hot springs. I think it's amazing. I don't think we should, you know, it's great. Any special place like that should be fully protected, kept open to the public, right? We already have an agreement with the government. Any historical artifacts or sugar mills, anything we that's there has to be protected, and kept open, right? There will not be nothing demolished. We also, when we had the Q&A, one of the members of the historical society, or even the chairman was there, and she told me that they have a detailed map, and I replied to her, we are happy to use that map and index everything that's there, and we will obviously protect all of that, and it will remain completely open to everyone. I mean, it's great to have that to the public. It's a great tourist attraction, right? Like the hot springs are right now. Everyone wants to visit the hot springs. For sure, this should be open.
Okay. Thank you. Have here? Can you go ahead? Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, thank you. Yes, and Mr. Janssen.
Yes.
My
is whether this Destiny City is being done by Free Society Limited, and whether it's going to be a free private sort of
All right, thank you.
super homeowner association crossed with Monaco. And then the last question is where the idea came from that Nevis needed a Dubai. Is that from another Nevisian or from Mr. Dians? Thank you.
I didn't get all of that, but I will try to answer as much. The first one I got about free society, right? No, this is completely unrelated, right? I will address the whole thing like 8 years ago. This is also Roger Ver. Roger Ver is not involved in this project. He was only informed a couple of months ago when we proposed to buy his land, which is in the south of Nevis. And then, he was made aware of the project and he was surprised by it, right? Roger Ver was involved in the Free Society project, and me too, in like 8 years ago, where we were looking, to buy a country, basically, or to start a country. But again, I also addressed that last time. Some ideas evolve over time. Some ideas are a bit crazy, right? And you can be ambitious in your life, but you also have to face reality sometimes. And I don't think it's a viable solution. And I think with St. Kitts and Nevis, right now the agreement we have, my goal is really what I really want, and this also was my idea in general, but people really want to have a safe place to live with strict rule of law, where they know their family can live. If you're wealthy, you'll be safe. And it's more about that for me, right? It's not about having a country whatsoever. You just need the safety. You need the right internal rules and regulations to make sure you can be safe. And that's the most important part. You don't need your own country from that. You can have a special economic zone in the world, like in the DIFC. Why is Monaco and the DIFC so attractive? And that's also answering the question why, right? The DIFC and Monaco are one of the safest places in the world. Why does it attract so many affluent individuals? Number one is safety for your family, right? When you have a family, number one you care about is my family safe? The second thing people care about, I would say, it's between weather and taxation. It's good weather and you have no taxes. Those are really important too. And I think Monaco and Dubai have both. When I'm talking about creating a new Dubai for Nevis or St. Kitts, I don't mean we want high rise or stuff like that. I'm just talking about the success and the ideas behind Dubai and Monaco, right? In Monaco, you feel super safe because it's very safe. You don't have to pay taxes. You're in a great climate. Unfortunately, Monaco is fully built. It's high rise. It's not that enjoyable to live. Dubai is way too hot, right? Is an equivalent in terms of safety and taxation and climate in the Caribbean. Right now there is not, right? St. Kitts and Nevis is not safe. It's pretty bad in terms of crime. And I'm just saying what's out there, right? I am not judging it. I'm just saying to attract that type of people, you need to be safe. And I really believe that the first place in the Caribbean to do something like that, and I call this the Monaco-Dubai hybrid, will be.
I got to pause that there, right? This is all. He began this interview by saying that there's nowhere in the world that he would rather do this. And he said, I think it's Nevis is the perfect place. And he had no reservations speaking about any type of safety issues. Now, to support his argument, he's saying that St. Kitts and Nevis is not a safe place. And beyond certain fluctuations, there have been certain years where I think at one point in time they had said we are the most dangerous place. Even though if you are living underground, you wouldn't feel necessarily like that. It was as a result of our low population and the amount of deaths that happened in those particular years. But I don't feel like there's any drastic safety issue. The way how he's making it sound is like CARICOM islands that are accepting refugees from America should not be accepting St. Kitts and Nevis nationals. Because maybe we are a security threat based off of what he's saying there. So I am unsure what he's speaking about when he's talking about how dangerous St. Kitts and Nevis is right now.
Extremely successful, and no one has ever done that before. And that's why I think it's so great that we can do that. Sorry, you want to say something, Jason?
Yes. Let me take this caller.
Go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead, Justin.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Now, my question: talk about that you acquired. How much that have you acquired from the percentage? Thank you.
Okay. So the question is, how much land have you acquired so far in terms of percentage? In terms of what you are seeking, I think you had a number that you're looking for, and they're trying to find out how much you have acquired so far, or what percentage of the amount that you are seeking that you have acquired.
Right. Thank you for the question. I also have to nuance it a bit. Like people ask, why do you need so much land? You know, it's like pretty much 10% of Nevis. It's not 1/6, but it's more around 10%. If you look at the acres, the total area would be around 2,600 acres. 2,600 acres, if I'm correct. Why? Well, if you have a couple thousand units, you don't want to build that on 50 acres because then you need high rise. One of the most attractive qualities about Nevis is because it's very lush and nature-based. It's a paradise. If you want to keep that feeling and have 80-90%, remain nature, you need a large area, right? Like you have a golf course to play golf, you need large fields. But anyway, this is super important to know, because if we want to keep that Nevis nice feeling, Nevis natural,
hold on, please.
Need that space, and also for. I just want to say that.
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, but I have to answer
this caller in.
Hold on, Banky. Banky. Let the caller hold a second.
Yeah.
But Mr. Jensen.
It's also undeveloped right now. There's also, right now the coast is eroding, right? And also this is not going away from Nevis, right? It remains part of Nevis. We're just improving the area. Nothing has been really renewed there. There's nothing planted there. We can make it super beautiful with amazing beaches.
Here's the difficulty, Mr. Janssen. Mr. Janssen, here's the difficulty, and I guess this is maybe why there's such a pushback. You seem to have an idea or a vision for Nevis and for developing over there, but that was not necessarily consulted with the people. Maybe the people don't necessarily want that kind of development. They were not given that opportunity to have that engagement. And it is not just 50 acres, as you're saying, it's not just 100 acres or 200 acres. You're talking 24 or 2,600 acres. Now, looking at the history of the Caribbean, looking at the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, where land and land ownership is concerned, there is also the question of, and then we look at the population, the numbers that you're speaking, people are wondering if this is a case of recolonization, where you're seeking to bring, 10 to 15,000 people in a population that is only about 13,000. You're looking at that possibility, and with that amount of land, so what do you say to that kind of critique or that kind of answer?
Yeah, I can completely understand the concern, right? I will answer all your questions, because there are a couple in there. Like, do people want development there or not? From what I heard, people, or have been asking for a road and to develop the area for a long time. So that's exactly what we're doing. The government didn't have any money to develop it. Also, we're developing this. We're redistributing lands, right? We're actually, a lot of those lands, and I'm not going to give you on the phone exactly the amount, because I have to look it up myself, but a huge percentage of that land was only owned by a couple of people and companies. People don't know that. It's not like there's 1,000 people owning the land. It was just a couple of owners for a very large area. So what we're going to do is, now we have that land optioned, we're going to redistribute that to the people. And I would love for Nevisians to come and buy the land or buy property there. So it's not like we're trying to. And about the colonization, yeah, of course, I understand that a concern, right? I mean, I get that. Of course, if you're doing developments and you are attracting more people to come and live on the island, then people will move there and come there. It's also a question about the quality of the people that come. Where do you want them to come from? Do you want to have affluent individuals? Everyone in the world, not everyone, but many countries in the world are fighting to get the more wealthy people to come to their country, because it will uplift the whole of society. If you, as a society, become much better from that, I think that's the right profile to go to, right? Of course, I cannot really judge or have that's for everyone's personal opinion. Do you want more people to come to Nevis or not? Do you want to grow as an island? Do you want to only stay 12,000 people? Or do you want to grow, right? And this is something I cannot decide, of course, for everyone. This is for every individual to decide. And
Well, I can pause it right there. I feel like next time we're going to start with the answers. I finishing this thing next time. Less than an hour up on this. But there is a conflict here, and I want to stop it here because the conflict is that the Prime Minister is telling us we do not have the resources to take on a major amount of people. Whereas Mr. Jansen is saying, do you want to grow or not? Do you want these affluent people or not? And it seems like we would grow if there's money involved. And if there's no money involved, then we don't plan to grow. I would suggest that when this growth happens, it is gonna have impacts on local persons that people are not really foreseeing at this particular moment in time. For example, I think the cost of construction is going to go up massively. Most of the crews are gonna be over on the south side. So when you have something to do locally, that is gonna be more expensive and it's gonna be less people available to do the work because, as I said, they will be on the south side. I do not know if these implications have been considered, but they need to be considered, and I think that they will be a factor going forward. At this time, I would thank everybody who has been tuned in to the network, who has been supporting, who has been sharing, who has been interacting with the feed. I will remind you that tomorrow is going to be the topics, and on Friday is going to be everything agriculture. Next week is the Premier's press conference. And based on what I've been told by persons so far, they would like me to do kind of like an alternative coverage. So it's possible that y'all are going to see me twice next week, once on Monday night and another time next week, Tuesday, for the press conference, so that what is being said at the press conference can be broken down as it is happening, rather than got to wait for in the night, days after, and these type of things. So once again, thank you for everybody who has been supporting. Remember the shows tomorrow and Friday, and I hope to see you all next week. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the week.
Hey, bling bling, now me call it King Kong. Every song I write, it's song. Every song I write, it's song. Tell me something, am I wrong? To believe in myself.
myself. Put nobody above myself. Energy, energy, build your energy. Love, charity, what a sight to see. What a sight to see. What a colossal. Working and working and working to prosper. What you gonna stop for? Keep on this right on the corner. Hey, make way when I'm weird there. Hey, tell the ear to them stay there. Hey, that is your destiny. Maybe what you ought to be. Even if no one you reach nowhere. So you have to find a way. Them no one you reach nowhere. So you have to find a way. Them no one can see you fly.